How are you doing? We are in chapter six, sediment controls for water reuse. And the first one that we have is a sedimentation. So the book says on page two, a sedimentation is a temporary setting pond that releases runoff at a controlled rate. The basin is designed to slowly release runoff, detaining it long enough to allow most of the sediment to settle. Settlement basins typically consist of a dam, embankment, pool area for water, principal emergency spillway, a controlled dewatering device, or a skimmer. So you can see a picture of a sediment basin. Once again, we're just trying to slow the water down in that pool of water so that we can capture any of the parts that don't cause turbidity. So especially, at a construction site or somewhere where it's highly erosive, I believe that the minimum detention time for a sedimentation basin is 48 hours to allow that that debris to settle. The maximum dewatering time should not exceed 7 days. One thing that you need to remember is what kind of spillway you don't have, what type of skimming device. They have a couple listed in the chapter. The most important thing to know about sedimentation basins is you have to keep them clean, especially after a major rain event. Leaves, sticks, and debris will catch on that skimmer arm or the dam or the spillway or maybe the emergency dam and spillway. And so it will put more water pressure upon those earth embankments. And that's what I see a lot in sedimentation basins is it's just not maintained, that the water actually goes where it shouldn't, possibly in a suburban roadway, because we don't remove the leaves in the trees. Once again, I've said that stormwater is not rocket science. It is a lot of just common sense maintenance. Making sure that our spillways and our skimmers are free from debris. Moving along, a sediment trap. A sediment trap on page 21 is a temporary settling pond formed by construction. So, that you can see they're still doing construction there. It looks like kind of in a right of way. And that's just it looks like just a small pond where you're catching some of that construction runoff. On page 23, you can see a good picture of your dewatering zone and your sediment storage zone. So your dewatering zones obviously going to percolate out through, and your sediment storage is going to settle down through the bottom. And then at the end of the life cycle of that construction, you can either scoop out the sediment or completely fill it in, depending on what the plans call for. A silt fence. You'll deal a lot with silt fences. Silt fences I see these out in the city a lot. A lot of pre-construction will have these. Silt, silt fences have their use. They're faster than creating like temporary diversion and settling ponds, but they tend to break down. So it's really up to the builder and who decides whether or not. But it says sediment fence is a sediment trapping practice using textile fences and and sometimes vegetation. But what they do is they actually cut that silt fence in, and companies really have this down to a science. And so, you know, in your operation, you're going to see a lot of silt fences. But once again, one thing I want to, recommend is maintenance of that silt fence. So at one of the sites that I work at, they put the silt fence in, but a lot of water rushed, broke down the silt fence, and then it's eroding in one spot. So once again, after a major rain event, you need to go back and see, okay, is the silt fence tore down? So you have contractors that come in and they put the silt fence in, but are they maintaining it and keeping it in proper order? And then also taking it out at the end of the construction project, removing it, making sure that they remove it. And so you're not going back trying to cut that with a razor knife, getting it out of the ground, and then a little bit pops up to the top. Storm drain inlet protection. Hopefully, in your subdivisions that are being built, they'll have some sort of storm drain inlet protection. Usually, it's one of those orange socks that's in the front. The reason why is you don't want a bunch of construction debris to clog up your newly ran stormwater drains. So you want to keep some of that out there, um, because they're not really made for taking that heavy uh, amount of soil going through 'em. They're made for normal suburban use after the subdivision is built, and so you want to protect those. So make sure that those bags, or I've never actually seen a rock outcrop like that used, but make sure they are being used. When you have a subdivision or a factory going into your municipality or county. On page 37, effective storm drain inlet collects sediment and therefore must be cleaned regularly. After each outfall, uh, sediment shall be removed. Going right along. Filter berm. So filter berm are sediment and trapping practices that utilize a compost mulch material. I've actually never seen this out in the real world, but it's definitely an option that they have. The filter stock, I've seen the filter stock used in front of storm drains, but they're appropriate for limited drainage areas requiring sediment control, where runoff is in the form of sheet flow, or areas where silt fence is normally considered acceptable. Filter stocks are sediment barriers capturing sediment by ponding and filtering water through device during rain events. I've never actually seen it in that form. Like I said, I've seen filter stocks in front of storm water inlets. What I mostly see is the fencing out there. Let me know what you see, and we'll talk about it in the discussion. Thank you.